tapes gathered from filming are publicly available. Only a few clips were used for Life After People, and those, along with a handful of photos, are all we have. Unlike some locations, this one isn't still boarded up and abandoned. After being cleared and fixed in 1999, the building went on to operate as Terry's El Mariachi supermarket from 2007 to 2013. Then it became Family Dollar, and in 2022, a Dollar General. In fact, here it is on Google Maps if you're curious. The only real similarities are the glass doors and the yellow parking lines, but clearly 26 years have taken a toll on this building's appearance. Mexia is one of, if not the most recognized name in these stories of abandoned and biohazardous locations. But another store comes close to its infamy. Seafood City Supermarket, located in University City, Missouri, was open until just 2 years ago. Not very long ago, it was a successful supermarket. That changed in the March of 2023, when it was ordered closed by local health authorities after serious code violations. These included improper storage, since food items were kept at an unsafe temperature. Cold items like seafood and meat weren't held below the required 40 degrees Fahrenheit. There was also a dead rodent found. Inspectors discovered a dead mouse under equipment, which is obviously a major sanitization issue. And with that, there was just general sanitation failures. Reports noted unclean surfaces, improperly stored food, and poor pest control all throughout the store. With these poor habits in place, it wasn't surprising what happened after closure. Just like before, the owner accepted the closure, but did nothing to remove the food. Unlike the Mexia owners though, this one faced heavy legal trouble. Mexia was left untouched in the Texas summer for 3 months, a long time for food to rot and contaminate the area. Seafood City mostly carried seafood, which didn't spread as many diseases or airborne risk, but the consequences were far more devastating for the neighborhood. Despite closing in spring 2023, this took 6 months to act because the city kept contacting the owner, who never responded. Legal barriers prevented the city from entering and addressing the issue. Eventually, they had to go through code enforcement, gather health violation records, and file lawsuits to gain access. Even after all of this though, the store still stands, abandoned and untouched. After cleanup crews finished their job, residents reported that the smell had calmed down, and as of now, it seems to be mostly gone. People still visit the site and many film or take photos, but entering or recording the inside is strictly prohibited. Most recent footage only shows the exterior, blinds drawn, windows covered. At street level, it just looks like any empty retail space. No signs hint at decay or a biohazard crew having been there, or the cleanup nightmare that it once was. Google Maps' last capture of the location was from 2022, back when it was still open. It looks bright and frankly normal compared to what it became, despite its health violations already being hidden inside at that point. It's no surprise a store with such neglect would go on to risk the safety of an entire neighborhood, really. And it's honestly just upsetting that it took 6 whole months for anything to be done. Some rumors claim that neighboring businesses had to shut down or relocate because of the contamination, but from what I've seen, none of those have been confirmed. Something I've seen said a lot in forums discussing cases like this goes along the lines of, why not just donate all the food to a food bank instead of letting it rot and become a health hazard? And entirely, I agree. It's a fair question, but after digging, it's just way more complicated than that. Like I mentioned earlier, food spoils so much faster than most people realize. To safely donate that amount of food, it would have needed to happen immediately, and in both of these cases, the closures were abrupt. That short window to haul out thousands of pounds of perishable food, even if it was cheap or free, just wasn't realistic. Sure, maybe if the cities had given warning, something could have been arranged. But so yeah, in theory, it's a really nice thought, but realistically, it just was never going to happen. Both of these cases happened in the US, which I know probably makes someone out there go, ha, classic Americans, how silly. I don't know what that accent was. And while yeah, a lot of these happen in good old America, it's definitely not just an American issue. In fall 2021, Northern Ontario would have its own rotting supermarket situation. This one happened during the tail end of the COVID-19 pandemic. A place called the Bavarian Meat Shop suddenly shut its doors. It's suspected that the pandemic made it impossible to stay profitable. Nobody was really leaving their homes, and even by the time people were venturing out again, the financial damage was already done. So the place was just abandoned. Mexia sat for 3 months. Seafood City sat for 6. Canada decided to be extra special because Bavarian Meat Shop was left to rot for about 8 to 10 months, from fall 2021 until midsummer 2022. The city of North Bay took the lead after locals started complaining non-stop about the smell and pest problem. Some people said you could smell the rot from 5 meters away. Classic by now, hazmat suits were involved once again. But since the owners haven't responded to any attempts at contact, the city can't legally touch what's inside. So instead, in June 2022, they issued a compliance order under the Clean Yards bylaw, demanding removal of all the rotting meat in the bins outside of the building. Basically, they only cleared the garbage outside and boarded up the store as much as they legally could while trying to sort out ownership and liability stuff. The latest update I could find was from late 2022, and according to that, all the meat that was left inside is still there. That makes it 4 years of sealed, unrefrigerated meat sitting hotter than room temperature and slowly rotting away. Okay, so update, I lied. So it's really complicated. I started looking into it again because I was like, that doesn't sound right. 4 years being left alone. Maybe I missed something, yeah? So I looked deeper into it, and it's just impossible to find any concrete evidence of what this store is like today. So in fall of 2021, it's closed with all the meat inside, we know that. And in mid-2022, we know that hazmat crews came in and removed the 8 tons of exterior bins. But from 2022 to 2025, all we know is that there's a possibility that interior cleanup happened, and there's some bits of footage, at least I'm reading that there is, but I can't find any. And up to right now, there's no official confirmation yet that every piece is gone from the inside. And I found this TikTok talking about it. It's this guy saying that new people bought it and then gave the original owner that abandoned it $1 million to clean it up. But that's not confirmed either, and the source that he puts behind him saying that doesn't say that either. So honestly, I don't know what to tell you. The most that I can find is that the source that he cited has the following lines from the North Bay deputy mayor, who basically said this: "We could not find any way inside because the city has no jurisdiction inside the building. We tried going inside under property standards or by law, but we had no jurisdiction going inside a building where there was no building code violation." So basically, the most that I'm saying is that because this shop was abandoned by the owner who had no code violations and didn't actually do anything wrong, there is no reason that the city has to enter it to clean it out, because there's technically no violation because the owner is not selling it to anyone, which is really stupid, but it's technicality law stuff, basically. I cannot find any complete confirmation that it's been cleaned out. I cannot find any complete confirmation that there is still meat inside. It's just really hard to understand what the situation is. I would just say keep your eyes on it and see if anything new comes out of it, because I cannot find anything like after 2023. So sorry about that. There's no footage or photos of the inside of this location since, well, a few things. Ontario has the ag-gag law, which limits photographing or recording inside meat processing facilities, and that includes abandoned ones. There's also the general legal barrier of entering at all, since it's been declared a serious health hazard. Trespassing would result in heavy fines on its own, and anyone stupid enough to break either of those laws would end up in a room of 17,000 pounds of 4-year-old meat. I asked one of my smart science friends, what happens to me after 4 years, and I just copied and pasted what he said. After 4 years, most of the meat would have gone through full putrefaction, all tissue liquefied or dried out in sludge made of fats, proteins, and sulfur-rich fluids. Bones might remain, but everything else would be black rot, dried meat crust, or sludge. Bacteria like Clostridium, Salmonella, and E. coli could still be active in anaerobic pockets. That's a lot of big words that I mostly don't know, but that's what he said, and it sounds pretty bad. TLDR though, the space would most likely be filled with ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, putrescine, and cadaverine. possibly methane or low oxygen levels as well. All of these can cause nausea, dizziness, vomiting, chemical burns, or respiratory failure. Even with a P100 mask and supplied air respirator, you'd likely faint, suffer severe lung damage, or straight up asphyxiate. If top tier gear can't protect you in there, no random YouTuber with a bandana over his mouth is surviving long enough to just get a few quick pictures. As time passes, it only gets worse, and stepping in becomes more dangerous, legally and physically. And since the owners still haven't returned, nothing can happen until the city gets a court order, which, for whatever reason, still hasn't happened. The best we have is footage from the outside. The old closure sign, probably written in 10 seconds, is surrounded by flies. Google Maps hasn't updated since June 2021 here, so we just have a glimpse from a few months before all of this happened. So, yeah, unlike the first two stores, this one is still just there. Okay, I didn't lie about that. I would say I just didn't know. But currently, that property is in fact still there, but it's currently also on sale for $1.5 million, which I'm not gonna pay that. I would go there if it was local, but it's Canada. If anyone in Canada can get there and send me a pic of it, that would really help. But I can't really confirm what it's like right now. All of that's based on what I thought in the past, and this is based on what I know now, which is somehow even less. So that's all I can say about it. While all these locations so far have been supermarkets, I think it's worth mentioning a chain restaurant that met a similar fate. In the spring of 2011, a Popeyes in East New York, Brooklyn abruptly shut down mid-service after the franchisee filed for bankruptcy. The staff and management just left. Food, fryer oil, raw chicken, all of it was left out and unstored. Normally, all of that would be tossed during closing on any normal day for any franchise. But this time, it was just abandoned and left there. Almost immediately, it was overrun by thousands of flies. Trash bins overflowed, raw meat rotted in place, and locals described the sickening stench spilling into the street. According to most sources, the site was left for about 4 to 6 weeks. And even though that's nowhere near as long as the supermarket cases, it was enough for this Popeyes to become a health hazard. After dozens of complaints from neighbors, the NYC Health Department was forced to intervene. A hazmat level cleanup was eventually ordered because it posed a health risk to nearby homes and businesses. The site remained decayed and shuttered for several months before eventually being cleaned and repurposed. No charges were filed against the franchisee, who had apparently disappeared after going bankrupt. Personally, I can usually handle supermarket footage fine, except the black meat sludge. I fucking hate that. But the images of flies completely infesting this place just make me so uncomfortable. Maybe it's because I really hate bugs, which, yes, I know that's ironic. Oh, your name is B, you hate bugs. Yeah, shut up. Okay. I just really can't stand the sight of so many flies. To close out this section of abandoned locations, I wanted to include a sort of honorable mention. It doesn't quite fit the rest of the categories, but I couldn't bring myself to leave it out after I saw it. While researching this video, I came across the tragic story of one man's disappearance. On November 28 of 2009, 25-year-old Larry Eli Murillo Moncada fled his home during a blizzard, in the midst of a mental health episode. His family and police searched for years, but for a long while, he was just never seen. He was an employee at the No Frills supermarket in Council Bluffs, Iowa, a store that shut down in 2016. Unlike the others we've covered, it was emptied out. However, the shelving and refrigeration units were still in place. Then, 3 years later on January 24th of 2019, contractors finally began dismantling the equipment. While removing one of the refrigeration units, they discovered a decaying body wedged behind it. It was impossible to identify visually. It wasn't until July, through DNA testing, that it was confirmed to be Murillo's. Investigators concluded it was an accidental death. He likely climbed onto the coolers, fell into an 18-inch gap behind a 12-foot fridge, and got trapped. The constant noise from the fridge probably masked his calls for help, and he died in that corner. It was 10 years before he was found. Since he wasn't scheduled to work the day he ran from home, no one thought to check that store. And even if they did, nobody would have thought to look behind a stupid loud fridge in a tight wedge. Some customers reported strange odors around that area at the time, but most assumed it was spoiled meat or nearby product going bad. If they ever complained to staff,